Finally, it's official now. This evening, we announced the 4th signing of this window as we finally capture Marc Cucurella from Brighton at the expense of the sale of a talented wonderkid. Learn the latest stories behind our 4th signing of this window, and to continue on, let's discuss attacking options with players like Depay and Sesko being linked. So we have a ton of things to break down. If you guys are excited that Cucurella has signed, be ambitious today, my friends. Let's get 5k likes for Marc. And now, let's get straight into the video. Of course, we have to start things off by discussing our new signing of Marc Cucurella. It's official, we found out that the overall fee to sign him is set at around £52.5 million, and he signs on a 6-year deal. Fabrizio Romano reports that tomorrow him and his agent will be in London. I'd imagine that they will put the signatures to the final contractual details, and then he will undertake his medical before being officially announced. Now, Marc has been in Spain. He's been waiting for both clubs to come to an agreement now to be able to sign for us. Now, I'm sure that a lot of you guys may be wondering, have we actually signed Cucurella, based on the official statement released by Brighton's main Twitter account, basically denying that an agreement had been made. Now, don't you guys worry, the deal has been made on our side, but there are some technicalities that you can understand the context towards. We know that COLWILL will be involved in this deal to get Cucurella over the line. On our side, the club side, we've got the terms and match the fee that Brighton want. But Brighton technically haven't finalized COLWILL like that, even though they're in the process of completing the move. So basically for them, this is all like a technicality issue until they have finally agreed the deals for COLWILL. Of course, to them, this deal doesn't technically count, even though I'm sure by tomorrow morning, everything's going to be fine and Cucurella is coming to us. Now, Brighton did something very similar with Ben White when he moved from them to go to Arsenal, so it's part of their policy to do so, and I guess it makes sense, because in that sense, what if we decided to just cut the deal that involved COLWILL going to Brighton and leaving them red-faced, which could technically happen, and we could get away with that. So let's get back into things, and Thomas Tuchel is going to be a very happy man, and I guess this is a massive capture for Thomas Tuchel, who is looking for someone that can play as a left-sided centre-back, as well as providing competition for the wing-back spots as well too. Since Marc come to the Premier League, he really stood out last season. I think all of us were taken by surprise. I spoke about Marc Cucurella when he was back at Getafe, and even though I thought he was quite talented, I was even telling you guys I don't think he's the guy to look towards, so he completely took me by surprise. And of course, in football you can always learn something and always be surprised. So I do think that in terms of the profile he is and the areas we need improvements in, this is a good signing. I think hopefully eventually now this means that guys like Emerson can finally move on, as well as Marcos Alonso, because the moment we sign these guys, every single window, we've been looking to sell them. So we finally have proper competition, and knowing just how demanding next season is going to be, 60 games plus. We have the ability to use 5 subs off the bench as well too, as well as how important it is to have wingbacks consistently fit and available. The moment we lost Ben and Reece last season, our form dipped naturally and we weren't able to climb up again and catch the same momentum we had before the winter period. So for me, Marc is a great signing. However, to get this deal finally wrapped and over the line, Brighton finally won, and they were finally able to get us, of course, to persuade Levi Colwill to sign for them. Colwill will sign on a permanent deal. However, we have been able to finally insert a buyback fee in that clause. And that's important. For me, it's fair. You know, you look at the money we're offering, 52.5 million. Man City weren't looking to get anywhere near close to that type of money. And I guess in that sense, they keep him for at least 2 years. They have a top class player going to their club, one of the best young players in the country going to Brighton. They can't complain at 52.5 million and one of the best players in the country to have for the next 2 years. I think that's decent business for all parties. Even though in my opinion, and you guys know I like to keep things real, I would have just kept Colwill. I find it a little bit interesting that we're willing to spend so much money to sign Fofana, and in my humble opinion, I don't necessarily feel like there's levels that Fofana has over Colwill, especially considering that he has the profiles we needed. Left-footed, can play on the left-hand side of a back three, very tall, plays between the lines. It's a shame that he had small knocks during pre-season. Maybe if he was fully fit, you'd see a lot more appearances made by the player. But at the same time, I feel like Tuchel as our manager needs to know the talent he has at this club. But I guess maybe for all parties, they decided that the sacrifice was worth it. For Colwill, he's a teenager, so by the time we could realistically look at him, he could be around like 21, 22 years old. And if there is like a decent buyback option as well, in a sense, I guess some people could see this as like an extended loan, like a very committed loan where Brighton, because they own the player, will give him the best possible development. And with their recent policies over the past few seasons, signing talented youth. I mean, this season in particular, they've signed so many teenage talent from across Europe that this is what they do. They sign them young, develop them, then flip them early. So I guess it'll be good for COLWILL. I'd imagine that, of course, originally he wanted to stay and fight. But at the same time, if you're seeing the club going for Fofana when you're actually there, it only makes sense for you and your team to be like, okay, I need to start playing football right now and putting myself on the map. So let's pay great attention to what COLWILL does for Brighton this season. And of course, I guess I'm not necessarily happy with this. Ideally, I'd want to keep him. But at the same time, I guess we were kind of forced after bending to Brighton's ball, because if we lost out on Cucurella, realistically, who could be signed now that gives us that ability to challenge now, to try and win now? Because I think that's what Todd Boehly is here to do. And he made this very apparent and very clear when he first signed for us. He did state that we understand there is a project at this club. It will take time. It won't happen instantly. But that doesn't mean that we aren't going to be ambitious. If we see the options there in the market, we are going to pursue them aggressively and look to sign them. And I guess realistically, sometimes make that vision happen, you have to be able to make the small sacrifices in order to make the bigger dream happen. And at least out of everything, there is a buyback option. So we did get a small win there, which allows us to sign him back for a decent fee in the future. So that is the latest news surrounding Marc Cucurella, our new player for this season. You guys share your thoughts and opinions. How do you feel about how this transfer went down? How do you feel about Marc? Are you excited to see him? And how do you think he's going to play under Thomas Tuchel? So right now, let's move on to the next stories and let's talk attacking options. Timo Werner is destined to return back to RB Leipzig. We know that he wants to play in the World Cup. That is the biggest motivator behind why he wants to leave us. And RB Leipzig and the player feel like it's best for them to rejoin now and work together to create that environment for him to be successful in. I'm hoping that we're going to use our brains though, because we have had long-term interest in Gvardiol and in Nkunku. And I just feel like when you're, potentially just doing a little favor towards RB Leipzig, massive wage reduction from Timo Werner, I'm hoping that this gives us leverage to sign Nkunku and Gvardiol. I think that has to be the only solution I see, and Werner is definitely worth that sacrifice. However, if he does go, we understand that Tuchel is a manager that doesn't like to lose options. Breuer is set to remain. He's been able to persuade the player. And originally for me, I kind of thought that if Werner was going, then maybe Breuer would just take his place. Breuer has had a ton of interest from Newcastle, West Ham, Napoli, even light interest from Real Madrid. So he is a very popular man in demand. And it's no surprise that he was really strongly considering leaving on the permanent, of course, to take control and take that destiny for his career. But Tuchel has told the player, I am looking to turn towards you. And I guess when you have the ability now to turn to 5 subs on the bench, and knowing that Kai at times can be a little bit indifferent, there is an opportunity here for Breuer to be able to win the manager over and make something happen. But at the same time, it seems like he isn't enough. And reports from The Guardian today suggested that we have some light interest currently in looking at Memphis Depay. Realistically, he could be leaving Barcelona. Some of the attacking reinforcement they brought in out of this world, and knowing that guys like Azpilicueta and Marcos Alonso are actually still waiting now to sign for Barcelona, I could see a merry-go-round happening here and something happening behind this deal. Does he necessarily complement things though in terms of like the pressing duties off the ball? I'm not too sure, but in terms of his technical ability, the skill, the guy's body strength as well too, I think of course he's a very good player, but I don't necessarily know if he would be the one we need, because for me, Memphis has to play on the left-hand side. That's his best position. We've got Sterling there. I know he can play on the right-hand side. He excels there as well too. But knowing that we are going to remain using a back 3 setup, it feels a little bit like overkill in my opinion. And again, I just think that if I was to get Depay, it would only have to be on a loan. I would not sign on a permanent deal. I feel more comfortable seeing how he does for us and how he complements the system. Because for me, I'd rather wait for big targets next summer. Like hopefully your Leaos, hopefully your Nkunkus. More players that can upgrade this team in the future. So let's keep an eye on these reports. And of course, one of the surprising reports today, and maybe not so surprising, Slovenian wonder kids in Benjamin Sesko. Now, Sesko is a player that I was first put onto a few seasons back. Basically, Haaland, I remember I did a video on Haaland when he scored 9 goals for the Norwegian under-21 team. And of course, when guys are doing very, unfamiliar things like that, I went down this rabbit hole of finding out where he played for, what was happening with RB Salzburg, the project they had there, and some of the talents they had at that club too. That introduced me to players like Mwepu, Adeyemi, as well as Sesko, who I think at the time was playing for like one of their B teams in Austria, Lieferberg. I'm probably getting it absolutely wrong. But he was seen already back then when they saw that Haaland as the new Erling Haaland. So I was just thinking, okay, I'm seeing a bit of a pattern behind some of the strikers. Lots of speed, very physically dominant as well too, very direct. And for me, it felt like, okay, am I getting a glimpse of like the modern day forwards that, teams will need to combat against defenses in the future? Potentially. We do know that on the 31st of July, Todd Boehly held talks with Sesko's agent in Elvis Bozanovic, talking about his player and talking about getting a move over the line. Now, he has a ton of interest right now. As you probably know, Manchester United are quite public with their interest. A few other clubs that haven't been announced too are monitoring the situation and presenting offers as well too. So currently, it seems like the player and his team now are assessing their options to see what they need to do. On one hand, I'm a little bit surprised because I always felt like Sesko, this was going to be his blow-up season for RB Salzburg. I felt like Adeyemi was the main guy before. Before Adeyemi, it was Haaland. So in that sense, they have that successor lined up every single year. But I guess for the money being offered towards the player and the fact that maybe more teams are more accustomed to what RB Salzburg are doing, they're thinking now's the time to cash in. And it seems like Salzburg want 30 million euros to sell their player. Now, I don't want to spend too much time breaking down his game, but, even though he's very talented and has big potential, he is not the finished article at this point in time. For me, it's things like the finesse behind his game, finesse behind the ball control, inconsistencies where maybe sometimes he will control the ball beautifully with his head on his chest, and other times mess up that same situation. That is typical when you're young and still growing. But in terms of the benefits you're getting, these are things you can easily tweak and improve. The guy is an absolute beast. He's huge, he's fast, he's direct. He's very direct with his dribbling, even though he can be a little rigid with how he's running with the ball. And of course, he is decent and quite good aerially as well too, and he knows how to find the back of the net. He has pure conviction behind his strikes. And back when he was at that, the parent club team in Austria, Lieferberg, whatever, the guy was scoring goals for fun. I think he got 20 plus goals in the Austrian league when he was a teen. So this guy is a special talent. And you'll think by the time he's 22 or something like that, he'll probably be nearly complete. So it's interesting that we are continuing this path of getting the next generation of great players sign up already. I think that's quite smart. And then hopefully building a team around young talent that will be ready to challenge for the future. Let's see what happens with that. But on the other hand, I look at Breuer, and I kind of feel like stylistically, some of these players, they're quite similar. So I don't think Sesko and Breuer in the same team makes sense. I get like Pulisic and Hudson-Odoi vibes. I do think that, it's this thing of hoarding as much talent as possible and hoping that someone eventually breaks through isn't the most efficient way to develop and guarantee that you'll get quality at the end of development. I think we have to remember that players are human beings, and if you give human beings the right metrics like, confidence, belief, career paths, and if they have luck on their side, like no injuries, etc., you'll probably guarantee that you'll definitely get that quality at the end. So that's the story out of the way. And on that note, you guys, I'm going to wrap things up, keep things moving. Thank you for watching. Today, we captured our 4th signing with more players to come as well too. So you guys in the comment section, let us know who are the next signings you want to see come before this window closes. On that note, I'm EFC, this is BlueLionsTV. I'll catch you guys later with some more videos. Cool.